So at this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this piece, get the cooler and EGR valve reinstalled in this spot here, and that way I can get this in. Then I will come over, I will exchange the water pump and thermostat, and then we'll do the manifold. So do this one step at a time. So let's go ahead and get started on this part right here. And this is the gasket that goes at the back right here. And this one is actually, as I told you about the ones in here, this is actually kind of got a flanged out piece, but on both sides. This is actually two pieces mashed together. And so this does not matter which way it goes on here. So this has got the indentation here. And it's also got an indentation on the pipe that mates up to this. So it doesn't matter which way it goes on there. So just make sure that you get it situated like that. Pipes wanting to, and cords, electrical wires and whatnot, wanting to grab onto it with every chance that they can. So it's much easier without that additional piece. There we go. Now it's kind of in its home space here. If you remember right, this stud, this one, goes right through here. So you can actually use this and kind of get that threaded to give this some stability on the front there. So I got off camera, I got the two back bolts with the exhaust pipe going into the EGR cooler. So I got that attached, and I just snugged up the stud here in the front. So now I'm just going to snug up the nut here to that stud. There we go. Okay. So that is all anchored in now. So now you can put this little bolt. There's this little 10mm one that goes right here. And that's just for this bracket. And then we have this 12mm one that goes kind of just underneath this hose right here. It's the upper bracket. I'll show you on the one we just took off. So it's right here. It's for this bracket right here. It goes right into the top of the head right there. And it is located right underneath that hose piece there. Come back to my best friend here and snug that one up. This is when this tool is so handy. There we go. Okay, so that one is on. That is all of the bolts that hold this unit on now. So now we can actually start to reconnect some hoses. So I got this big one down here. So we've got a big hose right here that we have to connect to. And then we got the upper hose right here. So these two are the two rear hoses that we want to get on all the back area is now complete. So we just have the front area of the engine to go. And we can go ahead, looking at this one right here. So we just did these two. We got these two bolts done. We got this bolt done. And then on the EGR, we got this bolt to this hose done. And we got the long stud and bolt. So now we still have these two hoses right here. I do love those OEM clamps though. They are really, really good. A lot more than the worm style clamps. Okay. That is on. Okay, got that all cleaned out. Now it's easy to remember just when you're putting this back together. This side has the extra thread in it, and that is for this little cover. So it goes away from the EGR valve. Now I'm not going to snug this down yet. So in case I need a little bit of playroom to move this around when I'm putting in the manifold. I think we're ready to go ahead and remove the water pump and thermostat and swap those out real quick. Here's the water pump. So let's go ahead and start by getting this connector off. There we go. So this other one goes to the AC compressor down below it. So I don't think that that will be an issue. And then this whole thing attaches to this bracket here, so shouldn't be too big of a thing. So we also have two hoses. So we've got, there's a hose right here that runs along. Ironically enough, that's the hose we just reattached to the EGR cooler. And then we've got a radiator hose here. Oh. Okay. I didn't realize there was going to be so much of that. That was pretty stupid of me not to have. My coolant tray under there, just in case. Well, it's probably everything the water pump had in it. Oh well. It's just coolant. Not that that can't be cleaned up. Oh, this is nice. Boy, my silicone hose came right off. That was nice and easy. Okay, so hoses are off. So now we just need to do our 5 bolts. Okay, we're have another telescoping one, which is just a little smaller head. Ah, look at that. What a difference. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and there's one, yes, one right there. Okay. There we go. Okay. So that sucker is loose. So just got to get the bottom one. So, and I mean, you could do that by feel, going all the way under, or, I mean, I can see all the way down since I don't have the cover on, and that bottom one looks like a clear shot. The AC compressor is offset this way. It's covering these two, but that bottom middle one doesn't look like it. So I'm going to go underneath and let's see if we can get to it that way. For the water pump. So here comes the water pump. There we go. There's the old one right there. Yeah, I've never dealt with an electric water pump before. It wasn't ever leaking. Gasket still looks really good and stuff. So, but I guess the rule of thumb is if you get to this point, go ahead and change it. And my wife did have a couple of temperature surges that she noticed, and just a quick brief blip, and then it went away. So I don't know if it was the water pump or the thermostat, and that's why we're going to go ahead and change both. So there's the water pump off, and then the thermostat is on the back side here. There's the new thermostat. It's all one piece. Gasket's already there. So this sits just like that. So I can see these two. I cannot see this one. Oh yeah, I can feel it, but I can't see it. Once again, this is when this is invaluable. Well, that was really stuck on there. All right. Okay. And there's the old thermostat. I didn't realize that. I just figured that they were all that way. The one on the back side is a bolt. That's kind of weird. You would think that would be a stud also. Just because that would be, I would think that would be easier than trying to thread a bolt in where you can't see it. Weird. The stud sticks out at least, and you can get it threaded easier, but hey, whatever. I'm glad I saw that. Ah, yes. So here, make sure guys, when I pulled this off, the old gasket stayed on there. Definitely, just like an oil filter, make sure the old one comes off. There's a deep groove in there for that gasket to seat down into. Oh yeah, much better. Much, much better. Okay. That would have been pissing all over the place. So, the new thermostat is now on. Look at that. Just like that. Bada bing, bada boom. So, while we're right here, let's go ahead and reattach this hose. There we go. Let's reattach this hose. There we go. On the gasket, there's bumps here. And on one side, they don't extend all the way to the side. You see that? So the side that they do not extend to, which is on the bottom here toward my thumb, that goes out. So when you put the gasket in, those little ridges basically help hold this in, so when you're putting it in, positioning it, it doesn't shift on you. So just make sure that it's all, there we go. It's all in place. Oh, there it goes. I figured I just had to line up that shaft, just had to line up properly. There we go. And then rotate it to where it lines up. And then, at least if nothing else, get one of the bolt started if I can. There we go. This AC line is, of course, conveniently in the way. I think I should do one of these, this upper one. It's the most easy to access. There we go. Get it on a little bit more so it doesn't want to fall back. Okay, so got all of the upper ones in. I'm just going to go underneath and do the bottom. So I got all 5 bolts in now. Bottom one is all completely tightened up. I'll cinch these all down. Done with this portion of it. I can move on to getting the intake manifold back in and wrapping it up. The torque, the short ones are 15 and the larger ones are 19. So I had looked it up and I was close, I just couldn't remember. So these are 15. For those of you that only have a half-inch torque wrench, you need to get a 1/4 inch or a 3/8 inch one, and that will give you a smaller range here and allow you to do smaller numbers for some of these finer bolts. One thing that we need to do before we start on the intake is we got to put this stuff back together here. So let's go ahead and bolt back in this. Dipstick tube with the plug. So this plug goes here to the water pump. There we go. That goes there. And then this one goes to this. Oh, I think that's go. That is all done. So water pump is all done. Thermostat is all done. Our hoses are done. Our PVC PCV valve is done. EGR valve and EGR cooler are changed. So we are good so far. So the only thing that we have to do now before we reinstall the intake manifold is we have to move our throttle body from the dirty one that I will end up cleaning and have it ready to go in 75 to 80,000 miles when we swap out the EGR system again. Like I said, every 75, 80,000 miles. I just proved that with this test, especially if you have an oil catch can. Make sure you guys install one. This test just proved that because the EGR cooler was in much better shape this time than it was the first time with similar miles on it. And that was when I installed the oil catch can. So let's go ahead and get this changed out. So we just need to move this part over to the new clean one. So there are 4 bolts, actually 2 bolts, 2 nuts, and then move to this one sensor. So these are all 10 millimeter bolts. So this just comes off with one, and there is a guide pin for this sensor. So just kind of give it a wiggle, and it will, there we go, and it will come out. So there's an O-ring right here that seals that. So then we'll do our 2 bolts.
And our 2 nuts.
Okay, so now this whole unit will slide out. And you can actually get a good look at your throttle body. And this is a good time to give it a good cleaning. Make sure that you get everything and there's nothing, and this is actually very clean. I'll wipe this down where it seals up against that. There is an O-ring right here. I have a new one to go right there. So we will install that, and I will clean this off. And then this right here, theoretically you could get 2 more of these, but this is how I've always ended up getting tools I needed over the years. Whenever I needed something for the first time, that was when I bought it. When I needed it, and then I had it. And these little suckers, I've used quite a few times since then. So for the studs, you can use these inverted Torx sockets if you have them. Makes quick work of it. If you don't, take your 2 nuts and double them up and back out your stud. Okay, so now that is off of there, and you've got all the goodies off of there that you're gonna need. And now you can set that aside because you're gonna be able to clean that and have that ready to go for the next time, and it just saves you a lot of time. If you have the parts ready to go, you can swap this, the EGR cooler the EGR valve and the intake manifold, literally, you can do it in 2 to 3 hours and have it done. So super, super simple. So go ahead and slip this little guy back in. And that's the thing I like about this too, is that it's not a high torque one. Oops. So it's good for a lot of these small bolts. And with this, I'll just let it grab and then I'll hand. And then I'm gonna go ahead and clean this off real quick before I put this back on. So I'm gonna go do that real quick. Look at that sucker. Looks brand spanking new. So, and this is a great time because you can get to both sides. Perfectly. So, okay. So we got the new gasket for the throttle body. There's the part number in case anybody is interested. And go ahead and slap that in there. This doesn't appear to be really any different in either way. There is a tab on it, and that goes right towards the bottom here. There's a little cutout for it there. This goes on like this. The 2 hose clamps go right there. The throttle body position is closest to you. And then get your nuts and spin those on. And your bolts. Cinch those down. Sucker out. Didn't want to come out of the bag. There we go. Okay. We'll pop this one out. Oh, this one's still very pliable still. It's probably okay. But, you know, even comparing it, I can tell that it's compressed. It's not as open as it once was, and I can see some junk and stuff in there, so I'll take my toothbrush that I have right here and just, there we go, run it in there. So this is where this is the tube that comes from the EGR valve. So, and then this leads to these 4 little tubes right here. And this is what is adding essentially the carbon and stuff back into the intake, and you get gunk and stuff in there. And then from the PCV system, this is where that comes from, this large one right here. So the PCV valve is just feeding all the oily junk that comes in, and it goes right in here to get reburned. Well, that is why the intake gets all oily and nasty, and the intake runners get that way. Well, I'll tell you, my intake, since having the oil catch can has been dramatically cleaner. So, I mean, it's proof right there that it works having that. So let's go ahead and pop this little bugger in there. There we go. So, and then I'll flip this over and we'll go ahead and put this one didn't have the part number on that bag, so I don't know what that one was, but here's the intake gasket. And a lot of people reuse these more than once and without issue. The first time I did this, the first time I took this off and cleaned everything out, I did also reuse it and I did not have any issues. But this time I wanted to go ahead and replace it. So it's not that expensive. So, but these are good gaskets though. And they seem to be very resilient and last a long time. So, you know, do what you will, but they're not expensive. So I think it's, you know, if you're doing this every 75, 80,000 miles, it's not going to cost you a fortune to go ahead and change those out. So we are set, guys. This, I mean, think of it this way. This is brand new. This is essentially brand new. Our intake is completely cleaned, and I did a video on cleaning this out, and I mean all the runners, everything completely inside is completely degreased and cleaned and stuff. So we just cleaned this out, so that's all good. You know, the EGR valve and cooler is clean now. New water pump. I mean, hey, what more could we want? So let's go ahead and let me spin this camera around and we'll go ahead and put this back together. My wife can have her car back. You can kind of just hang it on those two upper studs. And it will, there we go, and it will slide back right into place, just like it fits, just like it's supposed to go. So, alrighty. So, there's that hose. That hose just goes right there, so we might as well connect it right now because it wants to go on there. So, this connector goes right there, so let's find its home for it. There we go. So, this hose goes right there, but before we do that, let's move that clamp real quick. There's this one. This is coming normally from the PCV valve, but now it's coming from the, I should have done this one first. It is coming from the oil catch can. Okay, first, third, and fifth are bolts, and the second and fourth are nuts. Okay, so that is on there. We can put this hose back on that I took off to get to that other one. So these are the two 10mm bolts that go from the EGR valve from the tube here and feed into intake manifold. So this is what I was saying earlier, that I didn't want to tighten all those bolts until I got all of them started. Okay, let's get these 10s buttoned up here. Okay. Alrighty. Those are all done. So this is that other piece. It's the kind of the guard thing that it allows. It's a place these other harnesses snap into. And there's just one 10 millimeter. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now with that you can kind of see these two. So here's one of the clips for the wire harness that snaps into that upper piece, and this is the same wire harness ironically, but this clip snaps into that bottom one right there. So here we go. Intake manifold is back on, and we are closing in on making this a wrap, guys. So you can really see how everything comes together. This is mostly all nuts and bolts. This job was added, a little bit was added because of the water pump and thermostat, because of the 150,000 plus. That's roughly when they suggest you change that out. So went ahead and did that. Every 75 to 80,000 miles, I recommend that you clean your intake manifold, EGR, and EGR cooler. So if you do not want to have a spare that you can more quickly get the car back up and running, then expect the car to be down for a few days. But if you don't mind having the spare parts so that you can clean them on spare time, you can literally have the car, you can break this down and have it back up and running in no time. I mean, half a day. Because once you do this once, you will see how quickly you can do it. And the big benefit there is the bolt from hell. Because once you get that off once, you will never put it back on, and then cut off that bracket, and it will slide in and out really easy, and it's just not a problem after that. This whole thing is really simple once you get that bolt from hell out. So, but now you can see, looking down in there, and everything is back together. I really hope that this helped guys. I really like doing this and trying to help out others so that you guys can do some of these things yourselves and save yourselves a lot of money. And if you do this on your third gen Priuses, you're not going to have head gasket issues. The problem that some of you guys will have is that you bought your cars used and you don't know what other people did maintenance wise from the get-go. So I bought this brand new, so I know that the maintenance has been done right from the beginning, and others that have done that have also had that success. So, you know, if you end up having to replace the head gasket, replace the head gasket. It's not that big a deal. And then make sure you do the maintenance on time, and you will probably never replace that head gasket again. So hope that helps, guys. Please, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so as to do other things. And and you know, so we can keep our Priuses running down the road and whatnot. So, but I just kind of wanted to go that overview there. Now we'll go ahead and put the air box in and get everything tightened up, and then I'll just have to add the coolant back in and the splash shield on the bottom, as I can see all the way through, and we'll be good to go. Sorry guys, I forgot to start the camera. Just snap this in, so nothing really to it. It just kind of lays down in there. You line everything up, so you got a hole here, all the holes. You got your 2 tins in the box here. So you got long bolts that go here to the head. And then there's one short one, and that one is right here behind the windshield washer refill. Then one long one goes right here. When you have this in the right place, you'll know, because they all just line right up. And then this tube you snap in. There's 3 little clips, 1, 2, 3 around this side, and they snap right into the air box there. Okay. All right, that's all in there. One thing I like to do when I have these parts apart is I like to go ahead and clean them. So I wipe them down and clean them. So I left the other one over here. It's just one of the few chances I get to actually get them cleaned up. So here's this that goes to this hose. So this piece goes down to the throttle body. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now I can reattach this. Bring that over. Snap this into its position. There you go. I heard the click. This angled under. Oops. Show the springs around. There we go. Put that down. Lift up. There we go. I personally like to stick with Toyota Coolant. Just because I don't like mixing coolant, and you never get all of it out. You're doing a drain and fill and flush, whatever, so I just prefer to keep the same brain in there. I know this is excellent stuff, and it's just not that much difference in price. I paid $18 a gallon for it at the dealer currently. Used to be a little cheaper, just like everything. And we have contact. Started the engine up. Sounds good. It's just alive. Okay, set her in there. Line up the 2 holes is what I normally do. The 2 screws up front. And then all the other ones just kind of line up. Okay, metal tray is in. Let's grab the next piece. Next piece is the wiper motor. So this grommet fits in this little U-channel right here. Don't hit your windshield and break it. So put that grommet in there, slide to the right. And this will line up, and these 2 will line up, and this one will line up. So, and then grab your 4 10mm bolts with the large fat washers on them, and thread them in. There we go. Okay, now we gotta connect our wiring harness. Feed that back along and snap it in back into all of the connectors there, and then click. There we go. That part's done. See how easy this is? The next thing is our plastic cover piece. And you guessed it. This is a good time to clean it out. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a clean before we put it back on. This guy back on. What you want to do is this lip right here needs to go on the top side of the wiper, but then these pieces right, or of the windshield, but then these pieces right here go on the underside of it, so it kind of clamshells around there. What I normally do is I try to get one side on like that, and then I bend, and then I kind of bend this to get it up inside the hinge, just barely. Make sure that I have that kind of plastic edge trim piece on top of the windshield. And then once I do, try to work it back. There we go. Work it back, and then this will kind of clamp down and into place. So. And then make sure it's left to right, it's okay. Mine was a little bit to the left. So I just pull that back, make sure it's centered properly. And there we go. So now we got to put our 2 clips. They should be lined up. The holes right there. So, and there's 2. How much something like this would cost to have the dealer do it. Now keep in mind, they don't clean parts, they just replace parts, so you would be buying new parts every time. Now granted, I did that with the water pump and the thermostat. Those were new. But the other the other parts I went ahead and just replaced. Or didn't replace, I cleaned. All right, makes me feel good. Look at that. I just got to slap the wipers on. It was only for the wiper bolts. Huh. Interesting. Everything else was 10s or 12s. Fascinating. She's all buttoned up, other than the tray underneath, so I just need to finish doing the coolant, take her off the jacks, and go from there. So this is where I'm going to end it. I can do the rest of that without boring you guys. So I know this is a long video. I apologize for that, but I hope that it is extremely helpful for everybody. I've done a video before for this other part, but I wanted to show the results of adding the oil catch can and how great it did in the second rotation. And so doing that 75 to 80,000 mile rotation, I think is fantastic. And you can't go wrong. So anyway, guys, I appreciate everything. And until next time, we'll see you down the road.